Hello and welcome. It's good to see you. How's everybody doing? Huh? How's everybody doing? DJ, or Summerwolf, as I'm sure you prefer to be called, thank you for hosting right out of the gate. I appreciate that. That was very kind of you. How's it going? Start's here. Savage is here. The Savage Zebra. And Dark Angel, of course. I'm excited, guys. I am excited. Today's a great day, because we're reading this book, which our author... I did just dab. I absolutely just dab. It's much better if you dab in a jacket. I decided to... I don't need that. I decided to, snazzy it up a little bit today, because it's a brand new book day, and Dark Angel is our author, so props to that. And Funky's in the house. She gets a dab too. There you go. She's gonna lurk, which is fine. Wait, why didn't the command for that pop off? That's weird.
Don't look now, Atkinson. But you have someone new following you.
Candice, thank you for that follow. Hi. Hello, hello. You love the jacket too? Thank you. And thank you for that host. Gosh, y'all are kind. Y'all are kind. Hey, before I forget, let me make sure this command works, because I just put it in yesterday. Cool. That link is for the Amazon, or that is an Amazon link to this book. So if you want to check it out for yourself or read along with us, you can do that too. I'm gonna move my mic a little bit. Okay. So yeah, how's the weekend been going for everybody? Do anything exciting? We went and looked at some Christmas lights last night, just in a little cul-de-sac, like the whole neighborhood put some stuff up. It was pretty cool. Some of it was damaged though, because we had some crazy winds a few days ago, like 70, 80 mile an hour winds. We actually lost a few shingles from our roof. We have an adjuster waiting to call me to get that figured out, but for the most part it was great. So I snapped a few pictures, posted them in my Discord. It's also in Barnes and Nobles as well. Fantastic. So yes, if you want to find this at Barnes and Nobles, if you prefer that, go for it. Zebra says, I took my mom and niece to the zoo today. Awesome. Last time I was in Florida, I went to the aquarium and saw the dolphins, and I literally spent 90% of my time hanging out with the dolphins. And it was kind of raining a little bit, and no one else was around, and so one of the ladies that works directly with the dolphins gave me a little free close-up. Like, I got to, have the dolphin come up on the platform and that whole thing, and it was just me. And it was like a VIP thing, and it was awesome. I love dolphins. I would go hang out and work with dolphins all freaking day long if I could. I don't know why, but I do. I've been reading... Oh, hi, Gemma. Hi, Gemma. I've been reading Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. Well, that sounds intimidatingly awesome. Candace says, or that's what Candace said, Dark Angel, if you have Prime, it would be so worth it on Amazon. They are the same price on both. Cool. So yes, I have the Amazon link. I don't have the Barnes & Noble's link, but I have the Amazon link to this book. And every time, just so you're aware, Dark, in case you hadn't caught on from when I was reading the Bubonic Reorder, I'll be posting the link periodically throughout every stream, just so that people have a chance to go and look at it for themselves. I record these streams, so they will be available down below in the About section eventually, once I get it uploaded. And I upload them to YouTube as well, which is always faster because YouTube's just better at it. Sorry, Twitch. It's true. So yes, if you want to peruse the YouTube, you can find stuff there as well. And yeah, you're quite welcome. So, this is exciting. I hope you guys are ready, because I am. But before we get into it, Gemma says, reading Christmas Stocking, cannot think of the author at the moment. Me either. Speaking of reading, Gemma is already in on this giveaway, but I'm giving away a copy of 2 of my books, -19 and Final Earth. If you would like to get into that giveaway, the details are right there. I'm going to add you to the spin wheel. And yeah. So, and here's the thing. So that I say that it's going to end on Thursday the 23rd, and then we'll do the giveaway. But I thought I would have had the books here by then. But I think because of all the hoopla of Christmas and everyone shipping everything and buying everything, I'm not going to get them until like early January. So I'm debating on extending out the, the giveaway. So it says the 23rd, but that might not be true. So I'll let you know when it's going to end. You don't have to be here to win. You just have to be able to get into the drawing. But once I do the spin wheel, if you win, I will let you know, of course. So, and there goes Savage with 500 bits. Thank you. And that I'm now going to put you again into the wheel. So Savage is already in there once, but now she gets to be in there twice. See what I'm saying? See how that works? Save. So Savage is in the wheel again, so the more times you enter, the more likely you are to win. Queen! Hi, Queen. How are you? Queen is awesome, by the way. There's a lot of great streamers in here, actually. So, I'm part of USG. I helped found it. And then I'm also a humble member of the Plat Squad, which is where Gemma is out of. And Gemma, stop it. Gemma really wants a copy of these books, okay? She's already in there, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now a 6th time. She is desperate to win. Thank you for that entry, Gemma. You're a peach. So you're in there 6 times, lady. And I don't have any mods in here yet, so I'm just going to do some shout-outs real quick before we move on. And then I'll start Stream Raiders, and then we'll start getting into this book. Because it's going to be awesome. I am looking forward to it. The Savage Zebra. Queen says, I'm quite alright, excited for the movie in in early January. Then I'll hopefully get to stream more often without a yelling housemate in the background. Oh boy. Are you... I'm assuming you're not moving out of the country, you're just moving to a new place, maybe? He'll still yell, but it's probably that audible on stream anymore. Or not that audible. I never heard anyone on stream when I was watching you. But I was also working at the same time, so I may missed it. I don't know. Alright, let's see. Who else can I graciously shout out? Because there's lots of fun people. Let's see. We got Savage. We got Gemma. We got Queen. Dark Angel is our author. Is anybody else in here streaming that I'm just missing? I'm just moving into another apartment with him as he wants a separate room for work. Okay. So you're just getting a bigger space, is what it sounds like. And, bigger spaces are good. It's always helpful to have your own little, Oh, that's right. Funky. Duh. How could I forget Funky? I just started following her. There we go. I am. Why do I get the feeling that's you as well? And what, oh, No Man's Sky. Oh, I like watching that game. I think it's kind of chill. Like, there's a little bit of action to it, but it's also like, I gotta mine some stones and stuff. And then go build a thing, you know, or update something. But there's a lot of games like that, so that's kind of why I'm drawn to them. I used to be an avid gamer. I used to play games all the freaking time. And when I first started streaming, I was playing games too. But then I just found, you know what? I want to do the reading thing, and that's where I sit comfortably. So here I am. All right. So after today's read, I will be doing a short recap on whatever we've read. I put that in the Discord. If you want to be part of that, please feel free. Hicks is stopping by to say hello. Hicks, aren't you supposed to be having a great time at a party right now? I'm glad you stopped in, though. Everyone say hi to Hicks. I know her IRL. She's a wonderful person. Great friend of mine. A BFF, as you would say. We're actually going to go see a movie on Tuesday. So, that'll be fun. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Okay. Let's get Stream Raiders going. Because we have a big battle, a 4-skull battle ahead of us, so we're going to need as many freaking troops as possible. I don't like to start the stream with a big battle like this, but I don't have a choice. I just kind of have to do it. We have lots of enemies. Lots of enemies. Luckily, archers are big. Goldie, hi. Hey, man. How are you? Let's see. Yeah. Need a lot of archers. As many as we can muster. Gonna need some tanks to make sure we don't get flanked. Whoops. Hold on. Archer. And then, let's see. We could probably put in a couple of healers. Just to make sure we don't get too down on our luck. And then, of course, if you need to add some extras because you just need them for quests or whatever, feel free to drop those in there too. It's a free-to-play game. Just click on the link, start your journey. Enjoy it. Alright. Yeah, and if you haven't noticed, I do have new emotes. Because who doesn't love emotes? And I have some animated ones that are happening, or I think they're still pending. But yeah, new emotes down in the chat. So, enjoy those. I got them just for you. And if you're not part of the Discord yet, but you want to be, I would recommend it, because if you are subbed to the channel, you get access to a subs-only read that happens right now every Saturday evening. We are reading currently Ready Player One. But I'm going to do a poll, and I'm going to put this poll up for a long time, because I need to get your input on what we should actually, or when we should actually do that read, because I chose Saturday nights, but that does not mean that Saturday is the best night. And since this read is for you all, I want to know what you think. So I'm gonna throw up some options. Let's see. So we got. These are all gonna be CST. I'm gonna put that in there anyway. Bear with me, just creating the poll. Ugh. Wow, so much typing. Okay. Alright, so we're going to put this poll up for a good 10 minutes. That way people have plenty of time to choose. Alright, so the poll should be up. You should be able to see that. If you don't, let me know. If you're on your mobile, you just have to tap on the chat part of the screen, then it'll show up for you. Alright, now that that's done, and we've got Stream Raiders going, and I've done all my yapping. Jason, thank you for the kind review on Amazon. Much appreciated. You're welcome, and I did send you an email a few minutes ago with a slightly longer one. Hopefully that suffices for you. Alright, so as I traditionally do, I'm now going to read to you the back of the book, just like if you were, at the bookstore or checking it out for yourself. So let's do that real quick before we start reading the main thing. All of her life, Jane has been despised by her stepmother, Marie. When she was 5, her father unexpectedly passed, and she discovered she could move objects with her mind. Repulsed by Jane's abilities, Marie forces Jane into a life of servitude, catering to Marie's children and completing the chores at the manor house. Jane endures her dreadful life for 11 years with no hope of escape. Suddenly, a startling encounter changes her life. Jane discovers she is a pixie, just like her mother had been, and is invited to attend the esteemed Jelf Academy of Magic. Am I saying that right, by the way? Jelf? Jelf? Jane is swept up in a magical world full of new experiences. However, things are not as wonderful as they seem. Despite her efforts, Jane is not fully accepted by the pixie community. Jane must find a way to prove herself before she is banished from the one place that feels like home. I am saying that right? Great. Enchanting, fantastical, and fresh, Pixie Dust is a new twist on the concept of pixies, with a relatable heroine that is sure to captivate teens and adults alike. So there you go. That is the back cover of Pixie Dust. I love the artwork, by the way. I know you can see a picture of it, but here it is kind of a little closer. Bravo to whoever did the artwork on that. I think it's great. So, all right. Are we ready? Because I am. I have not read ahead. I've barely even opened the book. Like, it's still, it's still trying to flex. So, thank you so much. Demanza did a great job on cover design. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna crack open the contents here. Take a look. Dark, if you don't mind, how many words is this book in completion? Looks like we've got 26 chapters, acknowledgments, and then excerpts from Dragon Scales, and then a little bit about the author as well. So, awesome. This is fun. So, I haven't seen this yet, but there's a little bit of artwork inside the chapter title there. Chapter page, I should say. It looks like that's the same with all of the chapters. It's about 105,000. Okay, cool. All right. Well, folks, I am ready. I hope you are. Let's get into chapter 1. So, chapter 1 is titled, "The Only Life I Had Ever Known." Dirt and grime clung to the rafters in the attic of the manor house. Spiderwebbed glistened from the small amount of light coming from the dirt-specked circular window near the ceiling. Shadows in odd, contorted shapes bounced off the walls. The wooden floorboards creaked from the light scampering of mice somewhere in the corner. I was curled up in the middle of the floor on top of a dirty mattress. Tears fell slowly down my face like a gentle rain, while my heart clenched in pain. I pushed a strand of my long blonde hair away from my sticky cheek and brushed my palm along the damp line. Down below I heard movement, and I knew I would soon have to get up. Though I felt exhausted, I hadn't been able to sleep. It seemed like a very long time since I had gotten a good night's rest. The last memory I had of a real bed with soft, comfortable pillows was when I was 5 years old. Since then, all the luxuries I'd known had been snatched away. The pain of losing my father ripped through my chest, and I stifled a sob. Though 11 years have passed, my heart has not healed. Slowly, I sat up, careful to avoid the sharp springs that had torn their way through the fabric. Concentrating, I stared across the room to the sheet-covered vanity. The sheet blew to the side, and a small box levitated off the furniture and floated toward me. When it was close enough, I grabbed it and placed it in my lap. Inside were brushes and combs that had belonged to my mother. The box was one of a few things I had to remember her by, besides my appearance in the mirror. She had passed away when I was only a year old. My father had always remarked that everything about me reminded him of my mother, including my special ability. The traits I inherited from my mother would be the reason I would spend the rest of my life in captivity. I was only 5 years old when I lost my father unexpectedly. I had never seen him sick in bed before. My father was always so strong, and I never imagined that anything would happen to him. He was always up before the servants and had never taken a sick day in his life. He embraced running the manor house with an exuberance, not allowing anyone else to take care of it. My father wasn't a controlling man, but he was willing to take full responsibility for what was his. No one worked as hard as he did, whether it was overseeing the production of crops or making sure everything ran according to plan. He had so much to take care of, including me. People who remembered him said that he had worked himself to death, which was difficult for me to believe. On the day he died, I remembered I had been in a little white dress, and my nanny had just bathed me. My hair held a matching bow, and it had been done up in beautiful curls. My hair had always been beautiful back then, and was taken care of, unlike now. I was ushered into my father's bedroom, where my stepmother, Marie, and her 2 children stood. Emily, who was a few years older than me, had a ribbon similar to mine in her dark brown, almost black hair. She stood close to her mother, the two almost like identical twins. On Emily's left stood Preston, 2 years older and barely able to concentrate on anything very long, a trait which carried into his later years. His grubby little hands were busy ruining his new clothes. His nimble fingers pulled at the red bow tie under his neck. Preston's bright red hair was combed neatly, but it was obvious that it would soon be messy. I came up next to them and gazed at my father in his bed. I didn't know what was going on. I stared at his handsome face. His once blonde hair had begun graying in areas, and his face looked whiter than the pillow. He was wearing the blue robe that my mother had made for him, the robe that matched his eyes perfectly. As I stood by my father's bed, I knew something was wrong, but being so young, I couldn't even fathom what the reason might be. "Papa," my small voice penetrated the silence in the room. I wanted to climb up beside him on the silk sheets, but Marie stopped me. My father's eyes fluttered open, and he looked at me. "Jane," came his barely audible response. His voice sounded scratchy and his skin looked so swollen. "Papa, I love you," I cried as I felt my face grow hot. "I love you too," my father said. He groaned and clutched at his stomach. His face contorted with pain. His eyes found Marie's gray ones. "Take care of Jane. Make sure she has the best," he told her, his voice barely above a whisper. With a shudder, my father closed his eyes and never moved again. "Papa! Papa!" I yelled. I broke away from Marie and rushed to my father. I shook his arm repeatedly and screamed in panic. It was at that moment I realized why my father had called my mother and me special. All at once, every door in the house closed with a resounding bang. Somehow, I realized it had happened because I had wanted it to, and that I could move things without touching them. Before I knew what was happening, I was being dragged by the arm out of my father's room. I looked into the enraged gray eyes of Marie as she dragged me towards the stairs that led me to the attic. "You are a disgusting little creature," she shouted as she pulled on my arm. "I knew there was something odd about you the moment I met you." "What did I do?" I cried out. Though I knew it had been my fault, the doors had closed mysteriously. I had felt it in my heart, and I thought it into being. Marie gripped my arm even tighter. "You know damn well what you did. I just knew something was strange about you. When I first married your father, and you were a baby, I noticed things. The toys in your room moved without anyone touching them," she shrieked. I fought to stop moving as my mind processed what Marie had said. Was it true that she had seen me moving things before? I couldn't recall doing anything like that. "Come on," Marie said as she tugged harder. At that moment, I imagined that my arm would be too hot to hold on to. Sure enough, Marie yelped and let go. I turned to sprint away, but she was too quick and caught hold of my hair. I sensed that my hair was a part of me and that I would not... Let's try that again. I sensed that my hair was a part of me that I could not control. She pulled me up the steps in the direction of the attic. When we reached the top, she threw me onto the attic floor. "You'll stay here from now on, and I will assign you chores to complete. If I see any trace of your abnormality, there will be hell to pay," she shouted. Then she slammed the door, and I heard the big brass skeleton key turn in the keyhole. From that moment on, I never defied Marie again. Oh yeah, the ads. I hate ads. I hate that Twitch even uses ads. It's annoying. And I understand the pain. I do apologize. Luckily, it's recorded. A loud knock on the attic door pulled me out of my memories. "Jane, I need you to get down here and help me make breakfast. Why are you still up there?" came the loud voice of the cook, Ellen. "Hurry it up. You know that Marie doesn't like to wait. I brought up some water. Make yourself look presentable." I heard the familiar noise of a bucket being dropped outside the door, and then I heard Ellen stalking back down the stairs. When I was sure Ellen was gone, I made the door open softly, and the bucket floated into the room, stopping at the foot of the mattress. This was the only place I could use my special talent. I had been forewarned that if any of the staff caught wind of my powers, I would be kicked out of the house forever and left to die in the street. I leaned over the bucket of crystal clear water and looked at my reflection. My tears had left streaks down my face, and my violet eyes stared back at me. I placed my hands in the cool water, splashing it on my face. My body shivered. Ellen hadn't bothered to warm the water. When I felt as refreshed as I could be, I levitated the bucket away and ran the brush through my hair one more time. Then I got up from my small, dirty mattress and replaced my mother's intricately carved box to its hiding place. With a deep sigh, I crossed the room to the door. When I was halfway down the attic steps, I heard the attic door close just as I imagined it would. I briskly walked into the kitchen and found Ellen chopping vegetables. Her chubby fingers closed around the knife as she quickly julienned the carrots. Some of her mouse-brown curls had slipped from her blue bonnet and fell across her forehead. Ellen had on a matching blue dress and a white apron that covered her round midsection. Ever since my father passed away, she had been my overseer, and when Marie wasn't assigning me chores, Ellen was. "Come over here, girl. Don't just stand there. Heat this water so I can boil these carrots," she yelled at me over her shoulder. Quickly, I grabbed the pot of water and moved beside her to put the pot on the stove. Ellen continued chopping vegetables. As she finished, she dropped them into the water. I gazed out the kitchen window above the sink. The sun was streaming in through the glass, creating a bright pattern on the gray countertops. I could tell that it was going to be a beautiful day. Maybe, if I got all my work done, I could go swimming in the lake that was in the woods on the manor's property. Glancing down at the pot on the stove, I took the wooden spoon and began stirring the stew. After a few minutes, my mind began to wander, distracted by the scenery out of the window. I hoped that I would complete all my chores and that Marie would not think to assign me extra ones. I hardly noticed when Ellen moved beside me to continue prepping the day's menu. As I monotonously stirred the pot, I didn't realize that my subconscious mind was affecting the stew. I heard the lapping sounds of liquid hitting the sides, not realizing that the ingredients were rising from the pot. Ellen's voice brought me back from my daydreams. "Girl, watch what you're doing. You're splashing the stew everywhere. Quit your daydreaming because it will get you nowhere around here. Come back to reality and accept it," Ellen yelled. "I'm sorry. I'll clean it up right away," I said as I went to get a towel. "You better clean it up," Ellen said with a shake of her head. I hurried to clean off the stove and then replaced the towel in its proper place. I couldn't believe how foolish I had been. I was letting my magic run away with me. What if I hadn't controlled something else? What if the pot would have levitated right off the stove? Despite the harshness of Ellen's advice, it would benefit me to listen to it. If Ellen ever saw something abnormal, I wouldn't doubt that she would report it to Marie. I did not doubt Marie would follow through with her threat and expel me from the house. I had to be more careful next time. At Ellen's instruction, I began cooking the eggs for breakfast. When all the food was prepared, Ellen demanded that I carry the meal up to Marie, Emily, and Preston. The family commonly took breakfast in bed, and it was my duty to serve it to them. The hot, fluffy rolls, scrambled eggs, and brown sausages had to be presented on our best china plates. Marie couldn't stand to use anything unless it was of quality. The fanciest china sets were not only used for guests. The plates were deep and tiny light blue flowers decorated the outer edge. I had never eaten off plates like these. My food was served in a wooden bowl, and typically it was whatever was left over. I didn't mind that much because Ellen was a good cook, and she sometimes saved a little something for me. Even though Ellen was brisk, I believe she cared about me a bit. She wasn't much of a mother figure, but compared to others around the house, she was the closest to me. Ellen had worked for my father's household when my mother was still alive. She had known my father's grief at the loss of his wife, so I hoped she was somewhat sympathetic toward my situation since she had known both of my parents. My father had been lonely and heartbroken when my mother died. It was his concern for my upbringing that convinced him to remarry. A year after my mother died, he met and married Marie, a widower in town. Marie's husband was rumored to have been murdered by a band of outlaws on one of his many trips out west. She didn't seem to care about the death of her husband. Not long after his death, she married my father, even though the official mourning period had not ended. This had caused much gossip within the town, but Marie didn't seem concerned. Hey, iBlue Wave, how are you? How's it going? Welcome in. We're only a few pages into the brand new book, so get comfy. And put some troops in Stream Raiders. If you want. You don't have to, but you should. Just saying. Marie was beautiful, but she was nothing like my mother. I believe my father compared them too much, and I knew Marie grew aggravated and jealous when he commented on how much I looked and acted like the love of his life. Though my father had married Marie so that I would have a mother figure in my life, she hardly ever paid much attention to me, nor I her in the beginning. How could he have known that my upbringing with Marie as a mother figure would not be what he envisioned? Even with a new wife, my father would still make time for me. When he could find moments in the evening to spare, we would sit in his office. It was a large room with a big oak desk in the middle. Red curtains hung on the windows behind the desk. The brass sconces on the walls would light up most of the room when night fell. The room was very masculine, and it was one of my father's favorites. He would sit in there for hours going over figures for the manor's expenses and the payments he would receive from clients. Everyone knew that he did not like to be disturbed when he was in his office, but he would always make exceptions for me. It was our special place outside of my nursery and playroom. I would sit in his lap, and he would tell me about my mother and how special she still was to him. "You're like her in almost every way, Jane," he would tell me. "You have her eyes, her smile, and her soft complexion." I would look up into his deep blue eyes and nod. He always talked about her as if she were a mystical creature, not possibly human. He made her sound perfect, and to me, she always was. My father was convinced that I would grow up to be just like her. How disappointed would he be if he knew I had grown up to be Marie's slave? As I reached the top of the stairs, the first door I arrived at was Marie's. Just like every morning, I knocked 3 times on the big brown wooden door and waited for Marie to tell me to enter. It was taking a long time for Marie to summon me, so I knocked again. I had to quickly step back as the bronze doorknob turned and Marie burst through the doorway. "What do you want?" she shouted, Her hair was undone, and it hung wildly around her shoulders. I could see faint streaks of gray near her ears. Marie had on a white robe that hung open to reveal her gray nightdress, which matched her steel-colored eyes. Breakfast, ma'am? I whispered. She looked me over from head to toe. Well, bring it in then. Don't stand in the hallway looking like a half-wit. Marie turned back into her room, and I knew she expected me to follow. I watched as she collapsed onto the silken sheets covering her bed. Bring the tray over here, Marie commanded. Slowly, I brought the tray to her bedside and handed it to her. Good. Now get over to the window and open the curtains. I would like to see what I'm eating. I drew back the curtains like I did every morning. Blinding light flooded the room and illuminated the dark corners. The room was painted emerald green, and the accent carpet matched the walls. Marie's nightdress stuck out among the green pillows. She looked small in the huge bed, but I knew from experience that she was a very powerful woman. Her iron eyes seemed to follow me as I opened the curtains to their full extent. That will be all for now, Jane. Make sure Emily and Preston get their breakfast. I'll call you when I'm ready to be dressed, Marie told me. Em. Hi, Em. How are you? Good to see you. Let me do the thing with the words. I did a jigsaw puzzle online with Em last night and a whole bunch of other folks, and it was a lot of fun. You should go check her out. She does crafting and online jigsaw puzzles. It's a great time. It's one of my key ways of relaxing on an evening when she's streaming. Oh, you like and the new book? Yeah, of course. Absolutely. And Stream Raiders, which we will do here in just a moment. I picked up the trays and moved on to the next room, Emily's room. At the door, I knocked 3 times, just like I had done at her mother's. Come in, I heard through the door. Quickly, I pushed the door open and moved to the bedside. Emily had the covers pushed up beneath her arms so I could see the red, puffy sleeves of her nightdress. Unlike her mother, she almost blended into the bed except for the dark hair and pale skin. Put my tray in the nightstand and open my curtains, Emily commanded. While I drew back the curtains, Emily glared at her breakfast tray. Then she climbed out of her bed and went to the closet. Help me get dressed, Emily said as she held out a blue dress with ribbons around the bodice. I stifled a sigh as I took the dress from her and unbuttoned the back of it. I helped Emily out of her nightdress and straightened her undergarments before I held the dress open for her to step into. She pressed down hard on my shoulders to maintain her balance as she lifted one foot and then the other into the dress. I pulled the decorated sleeves up onto her shoulders, and when I finished fastening the buttons, Emily turned to look at me. Alright, there's a whole bunch of dialogue here, so I'm going to pause so we can do our Stream Raiders, and then we'll get the dialogue. Puzzles are pretty awesome. I'm glad you enjoy them. I do enjoy them. I love the puzzles. No? Oui? Oh boy. It's just me and Charox. Alright, let's get this over with, because death is coming. Mostly to us, but that's alright. Let's see how long we last. 5 of us and like 50 of them. Yikes. Oh boy. We've killed 10, 12. So we got 15 down before they started chopping our heads off. Ugh. I'm here, but was too late. That's okay. We'll do it again. Hopefully it'll pare us down a little bit this time. All right. Let's try this again. Okay. Let's see. Where do we want to go this time? We're gonna go in the top left corner this time, actually. Yeah. Top left corner. And we still want plenty of archers. Need archers. Definitely need archers. Some melee. And there's some peace signs just in case you need to drop some other types of units. Good luck to us all. I join you on stream meters, but have no space open. Oh well, that's alright. That's okay. We're ready now. Alright, so we're in Emily's room and we're about to get into some dialogue. So let's see what they have to say. Jane, I want to wear my hair up today, so pick one of my pretty ribbons and begin fixing it, she said as she moved towards the chair of her vanity. Miss, I have to get your brother his breakfast before it gets cold, I stammered. He can wait. I'm sure he's still sleeping. She sat in the chair and looked at me expectantly. I stood there debating what I should do. Should I fix Emily's hair, or take Preston his breakfast tray? Before I could decide on the best option, Emily spoke. Hello, Jane. What are you waiting for? I moved toward her with the brush in my hand and began brushing out the knots. As soon as I finished, I went over to the dresser and picked out one of her satin blue ribbons. I was in the middle of tying up Emily's hair when a scream echoed down the hall in the direction of Preston's room. Where is my breakfast? I'm hungry. Breakfast! Breakfast! He shouted. Before I could even comprehend what was happening, Marie had flown into Emily's room. Her face looked cloudy and her gray eyes pierced through me. What are you doing? She asked. I'm fixing, Emily's hair? I mumbled. Why doesn't Preston have his breakfast yet? She asked, her voice rising. I told Jane to take Preston his breakfast before she began on my hair, but she insisted that he could wait. Emily spoke up before I could. That little liar. I stammered. Marie rounded on me. Jane, give Preston his breakfast immediately. Then I want you to come to my room. Hopefully, your brain will not become sidetracked in the short distance it takes to travel down the hall. Quickly, I grabbed Preston's breakfast tray and hurried to his room. Preston was jumping on his blue bedspread, still screaming the word, breakfast! Preston, come down from your bed, I said as I slowly set the tray down. At 13 years old, with flaming red hair and bright green eyes, he was past the age of jumping on his bed. Preston acted much younger than his age and had an appetite for causing trouble. I didn't want to imagine what today would bring. Though, 11 years later, Preston still acted as if he were 2. Typical. I moved to the window to draw his blue curtains as he climbed down from his bed and crawled toward his breakfast tray like an uncivilized beast. While he ate, I took a deep breath and headed back to Marie's room. I braced myself for an ear beating. Come here now, Marie yelled as soon as she saw me in the doorway. Slowly, I walked toward her, not knowing what to expect. Help me into my dress, she said, pointing to a red dress with lace around the collar and the bottom, lying on her vanity chair. At once, I helped her put on the dress and stalked behind her to work on her hair as she instructed. "Jane, do you remember what the rules are?" she asked in a chillingly calm way. "What were you instructed to do every morning since the death of your father?" "I am to wake up with Ellen and help her cook breakfast. After that, I'm supposed to... I mumbled while trying to hold in my tears. Supposed to, Marie said, mimicking me. Supposed to what, Jane? Because you apparently forgot this morning. I'm supposed to bring up and serve breakfast, I choked out. Well, what happened today? Marie's voice went from sounding calm to yelling. I stopped my French braiding. It was pointless to tell her that it was Emily's idea. I just thought... You just thought? What you did think about was a hungry boy starving in his bed. Did I say stop braiding? I'm sorry, ma'am. It won't happen again, I said as I continued weaving her strands of hair. You're right. It won't happen again. And to help you remember, you will not be permitted to spend time outside when you are finished with your chores. After you are done with your regular cleaning of the house, you will go back to the kitchen and help Ellen, Marie demanded. My heart sank into the pit of my stomach. It was foolish of me to hope for some time to myself. I should have anticipated disappointment, because I had wanted to go to the lake so badly. I finished with Marie's braid and stepped back from the chair. Now, I want you to get back down to the kitchen and do everything Ellen tells you, but when you are done, you will go upstairs and not come down until dinner, Marie commanded. Yes, ma'am, I said sadly as I gave her a small bow and left the room. You should make Marie levitate out of the window. It's just a thought. It's an option. Just saying. Slowly, I walked down to the kitchen, full of sadness and anger. But I had to control my emotions. If I got too angry or sad, things could happen. It was fine to lose control in the attic, but down here, where someone would see could be horrific. Once I was back in the kitchen, I set to work scrubbing the floors, washing off the countertops, and assisting Ellen with whatever she asked. When I had finished, I began my routine in the rest of the house. I had bedspreads to change and wood to stack in the fireplaces. I dusted and polished the furniture to perfection and shook out the rugs over the balconies. By the time I was finished, I was exhausted and sweaty. I regretted the episode with Emily and Preston and made my way into the hot, dusty attic. With each step up the stairs, I felt the sweat trickling between my shoulder blades. When I got into the attic, I collapsed on my mattress. Once the door closed behind me, I knew it was safe to let my emotions go. The sheets over the old furniture ruffled as if a wind was blowing and the old furniture creaked. I cried on my mattress, missing my father more than ever. If he were alive, I would have a room downstairs. I would never have known what the attic looked like, let alone have to live in it. And above all else, I wouldn't be treated this way. Was it foolish to think Marie would be nice to me if he were still alive? I also cried for the mother I couldn't remember. What had she been like? If she had not passed away, would my life still have turned into a disaster? Did I resemble her with more than just my looks? Death had robbed me of so much, beginning with my mother. Ellen called me down from the attic when she needed me to help serve dinner. I proceeded with my pre-dinner routine, carrying hot plates of delicious entrees into the dining room, which I placed neatly in front of Marie and her children. Marie sat at the head of the long mahogany dining table. On her right was Emily, who sat pencil straight in her seat just like her mother. Their steely gray eyes turn the page, scrutinized the room. With one glance, one would know Marie and Emily were related. But Preston was entirely different. "Hey, Bubble. How are you, sir?" I think I have a new sound for you, actually. Let me make sure.
I'm just gonna say it. Every Australian I've ever met has had, like, the best sense of humor.
I'm fine. How are you, buddy? I'm doing pretty well, thank you. Get in on Stream Raiders if you can. We are desperate for the troops. That much I know. Aronell's doing the lurk work. Woo! Preston was the complete opposite of his mother and sister. While Marie and Emily's skin appeared porcelain white because of their dark hair, Preston's cheeks were rosy with a spattering of freckles. His green eyes were bright and always had a mischievous glint to them. Preston's red hair had become wild and curly over the years, while Emily's hair was as straight as her posture. Preston had obviously inherited his looks from his father. I often wondered what kind of man he had been. The family only occupied a small spot at the long mahogany dining table. The table was made to seat large parties, and beneath it was a beautiful oriental rug that I knew Marie had paid a pretty penny for. The top half of the walls were painted white, and at about the middle, dark wood paneling extended to the floor. The floor was hard wood, which matched the paneling. Even though the dining room was too big for the small family, Marie had insisted that they should be served dinner there every night. She had to be surrounded by her fine things at all hours of the day and would accept nothing less. When I finished serving them, I went back into the kitchen to eat my dinner, which Ellen had spooned into a small wooden bowl. I was in the middle of eating my soup when I heard a loud crash coming from the dining room. "Oh, you better get in there and see what he has broken this time," Ellen said, referring to Preston. Both of us knew that Preston was prone to breaking things. I grabbed the broom from the corner along with a washcloth and made my way into the dining room. "Hurry up and get the soup off my rug," Marie yelled. It was on the tip of my tongue to tell her to control her son, but I knew it would only cause more trouble. And sure enough, it was Preston's bowl that was on the floor, shattered to bits. Gently, I picked up the large pieces of glass and threw them in a dustpan. I did my best to sweep the small shards of glass off the rug, and then I got down on my hands and knees with the washcloth and began scrubbing. Everyone at the table continued to eat as if nothing had happened. I reminded myself to keep my anger in check as I finished with the rug and headed back into the kitchen. Anger consumed me, and I didn't feel like eating anymore, so I cleaned up my bowl. Now I was required to wait for the family to finish their meal. I waited at the kitchen table for what seemed like hours, and when I finally heard them leaving the dining room, I began cleaning up. It took a few hours to scrub and put away the dishes, wipe down the dining room table, mop the kitchen floors, and make sure everything was returned to its place. My muscles ached with exhaustion as I left the kitchen and began my ascent up to the attic. Once in my safe haven, I collapsed onto the broken mattress and fell into a restless sleep, where I tried to dream of better days. Ads again? Well, that's the end of chapter 1, folks. Let me check something here real quick. I know there's a way for me to see into, you know, how all that stuff is done. So I want to take a look, because there's something weird going on. I just gotta remember where it is. Let's see. Okay, I think I found it. Maybe. Raids, drops, scrubs on. Because if there's a way for me to just turn ads off, I will. Stream Manager in your creator dashboard. Stream Manager. Like in the quick actions, you mean? Because I don't have any ads in here. Oh wait, hold on. Edit quick actions. Delete. Okay. I think I might have gotten rid of the ads. I think. If it pops up again, please let me know. But I think I managed to get rid of it. Down the bottom under the preview window is where mine is located. You can get rid of the entry one. Yeah, you can't get, I know you can't get rid of the entry one, but I think one was popping up like every so often just cuz. And I hate those. It's not that I mind ads normally, but when they Twitch interrupt with 5 ads during a reading, it's a bit much. Yeah, that is a lot. People simply need to sub or use their Prime sub to remove the ads. That's true. Yeah, I know subs will get rid of the ads, but I don't want people to have more ads than they absolutely have to necessary. Ads are just annoying. I mean, that's why we have live cable now, where you can just pause and then skip through the ads. You know. Ugh. Anyway, that was the first chapter. I think it's pretty good so far. I turned them off from mine. They just get the entry ones. Yeah, I think I did that now. I didn't even realize it was going. So, my apologies, folks. But yeah, from what you heard, what's everyone think so far? I like the story of how we're seeing her lifestyle and kind of the things that are, you know, happening to her on a day-to-day basis and how she's being treated. I grew up with a pretty evil stepmother myself. So, I mean, I wasn't living in the attic or anything, but I was verbally and physically abused quite a bit from my stepmother growing up as a kid. So I can completely relate to what's going on here. So, yeah, hopefully there's no beating going on, but anyway. So yeah, good. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I know I am, and we're only just getting into this. So, without further ado, unless anyone has questions, feel free to post them in chat so that Dark Angel can, you know, answer them for you. So, awesome. All right. Oh, also, Dark Angel, if you have, I have already read this story 3 times. I love it. Well, hello, amazing Carly. Welcome in. I'm gonna take a wild guess here and assume that you know who Dark Angel is. I showed up late, so it's like Cinderella with superpowers right now. It kind of has that vibe, doesn't it? We know she has powers, inherited from her mother, but That's about all we know. Her parents have passed. She's living now with the woman that her father remarried to, Marie, which is weird for me to say because my mom's name is Marie. I mean, she's passed away already, but it's just weird for me to say that name over and over. But I can get over that for the good of the story. So yeah, she's living in the attic. She's being forced to sleep up there. She's basically a slave in her own home. And yes, applause indeed. So, good stuff. But yeah, at any point, if anyone has questions, feel free to ask Dark Angel. I like that name, by the way, Dark Angel. It's almost like I'm sweet and innocent, but I've got a mysterious side. Alright, so we're going to move on to Chapter 2. And Chapter 2 is titled Mr. Wicker. Sounds like we're going to meet somebody new. Isn't that you, Atkinson? What an angel, but dark and mysterious? Or, not dark. That's her name, Dark Angel. Sweet, innocent exterior, evil inside. Bubble, don't be telling everybody my secrets, okay? Just saying. Alright. Chapter 2. I should post my Dixper redeems from you. Heh. No need. That's why I don't have Dixper, because I don't play games. Alright, Chapter 2, Mr. Wicker. The days of summer fell upon the house with stifling heat and dry, windless air. Ugh, my skin's cracking already. The attic was even hotter than before, making it difficult to stay up there for long periods of time. I made sure I completed all my chores correctly so Marie couldn't find a reason to punish me. One day at the beginning of the summer, Marie commanded all the servants to labor until the house was immaculate. The staff's normal hours were extended, and I was given double chores, which included cleaning all the windows on the first and second floors. Soon, everyone was wondering what had brought on this dramatic cleaning of the manor. Ellen was the first to find out when Marie demanded preparations for a feast later on in the week. Apparently, we were receiving company. Marie wanted everything perfect, so she supervised the work effort. Nothing passed Marie's sharp eyes, and she targeted me more than anyone else. I had to be very careful not to upset her. On the day of our guest's arrival, Marie was all aflutter, and she rushed into Emily's room, threw open her closet, and rifled through Emily's dresses. She made sure to stress the fact that Emily had to look her best today. I assumed a suitor was coming to court Emily, since she was of age. Sure enough, I was right. He pulled up in a black carriage drawn by 4 black horses. I watched from the front window as a boy, about 6 foot tall with auburn hair, jumped down from the carriage and opened the door. An older man, who appeared to be in his 50s, stepped out of the carriage. He had gray hair and a mustache. In his hand, he held a ruby-encrusted cane, and he sported a top hat. He turned to the boy, and I saw his mouth snap open as he yelled. Swiftly, the boy ducked into the carriage and emerged with a small bag in his hand. I was interrupted from my watching by Marie. "Jane, get back into the kitchen. I'll call you to serve tea when I am ready," Marie yelled. "And do straighten your skirt before you come out." Hastily, I moved out of the bright hall and into the kitchen. I smoothed out my skirt, like Marie had asked, and waited for her to summon me for tea. Soon after I settled in the kitchen, I heard a commotion in the dining room. I knew Marie had retrieved Emily from her room, but I didn't know if Preston would be joining them. Marie's call for tea snapped me to attention. Grabbing the rose-colored tea tray, stacked high with biscuits and small sandwiches, I went into the dining room. Why do I feel like I need to read this in a British accent? Dark Angel, what part of the world are we in? Just out of curiosity. The elderly gentleman was sitting on Marie's right. He had taken off his top hat, but he still held on to his cane. The boy who had come with him stood in the corner. I proceeded to pour out the tea after I had inquired whether the man wanted milk, lemon, or sugar. It's in the US, okay. It's just, it all sounds very proper, and I believe I should, if we're having tea and little sandwiches and biscuits and the like, in around the year 1910. Okay. Very good. As I was saying, Mr. Wicker, Emily is a delightful young lady. If you'd like to read it all in an accent, go ahead. Well, I was born and raised in the UK, so it wouldn't be difficult, but I might forget one of the other times, and then I would just ruin the whole thing. Let's see. Oh, as I was saying, Mr. Wicker, Emily is a delightful young lady, Marie said, ignoring me and addressing her guest. Yes, I see, Mr. Wicker said as his gaze shifted over to Emily. I couldn't be certain, but I thought I had seen Emily flinch. I'm sure when we are done with tea, Emily will be glad to escort you around the grounds. However, please excuse the stables because we are short a stable boy, Marie explained. I might be able to help with that, Mr. Wicker said as he leaned back in his chair. Recently, I've been looking for a new position for my stable boy, and I would be happy to pass him off to you. Aranelle's with her tea. Oh, and before I forget, here's Aranelle's favorite sound, which, by the way, you mods, you can type this in yourself. It's approved for mods only, so.
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
For those of you that don't know, Aranelle works at a library, so that's why she prefer we be quiet. I don't think I'm in the financial position to pay a stable boy's salary, Marie said. Don't worry, Mom. The boy won't need paying. He will be happy just to have room and board, I can assure you. It was lucky that he came with me today, Mr. Wicker said, pointing to the corner. Come here, Robert. I keep forgetting the librarian. Yes, Blue Wave works in a library. The boy in the corner slowly made his way over to the table. His face had slightly reddened, and his deep brown eyes gazed at Marie. My eyes were drawn to the collar of his blue button-up shirt. Around his neck was a tarnished silver chain with a charm of some sort with a chain with a charm of some sort hidden beneath his shirt. Robert is 17 years old and a good worker. I'm sure he will do whatever you ask of him, especially if his life depends on it, Mr. Wicker said. If he is such a good worker, why do you wish to be rid of him? Marie asked, her eyes full of suspicion. How about after Emily shows me the property, you and I will further discuss this proposition, Mr. Wicker said as he got up from the table and extended his arm to Emily. She hesitated in getting up, but finally stood and linked her arm through his. So my understanding, the culture of the time period that, if Emily's like barely a teenager, she can just be taken off by any old dude. That's exciting. Yeah. The battle is ready. Think of chimney sweeps? Yeah. Ugh. Robert moved back into the corner, and I came forward to clean up the half-eaten biscuits and tea. I watched him out of the corner of my eye. He stood very still, and I wondered if he was in a similar predicament as me, working for food and a place to sleep. I walked back into the kitchen with the plates and decided to stay there until I was summoned again. It wasn't until after dark that I was called up to help with dinner. Ellen handed me bowls of mashed potatoes and corn to carry out onto the table. Surprisingly, Ellen even helped by carrying out the steaming turkey on a platter. She put the platter in the middle of the table and beamed at the family before backing the kitchen. Older, more well-off dude? Yeah, pretty much. Alright, let me start the battle in the background. I don't want to interrupt the reading because I feel like something's about to happen. I can't tell. So I'm just gonna start it and it'll play on screen in the corner. Marie was once more at the head of the table, and Mr. Wicker was on her right. This time, Preston was on Marie's left, and Emily was seated next to Mr. Wicker. Her thin mouth formed a pout, and her arms were crossed. It was apparent that she wasn't very fond of Mr. Wicker. Robert was still standing in the corner, and I wondered if he had ever left that spot. Jane, take Robert into the kitchen and let him eat in the serving quarters. He needs to know how things work around here. After he is finished, I want you to take him out to the barn. Help him set up the loft, since that is where he'll be staying from now on, Marie said. It seemed Marie and Mr. Wicker had come to a conclusion about where Robert would live. Robert silently followed me into the kitchen. I showed him where to find the wooden bowls, and I pulled down 2. I'm always instructed to eat my meals in the kitchen, I explained. Robert looked at me but didn't say anything. He took one of the wooden spoons and helped himself to the remaining food. After filling my bowl, I sat down beside him at the small table. Robert didn't say anything while we ate, so I ate in silence. About halfway through dinner, we heard a commotion in the dining room. I jumped up and ran for the broom, thinking that Preston had broken something again. I entered to find Emily standing. Mr. Wicker's eyes were wide, and he had food all over his face and in his mustache. He stopped chewing on his turkey leg to look up at Emily. I noticed that his plate was piled high with everything on the table. I can't take this anymore, Emily screamed. Her face was red, and she reminded me of an angry Marie. You cannot possibly expect me to marry this man. He is repulsive. Don't you talk to our guest that way. Apologize. This instant, Marie shrieked. I refuse to apologize to this fat, pompous pig, Emily cried. She moved away from the table and headed for the door. Emily, get back here. You will marry Mr. Wicker. You must. Marie dashed out of the room after Emily. I could hear their screams fading into the distance. Mr. Wicker looked disturbed, but continued eating his dinner. His face was very red. I stood frozen, dumbfounded by the scene that had just unfolded. Type in exclamation PD. PD. and that will get you what you need. We have another tough battle coming up, by the way. I'm just setting it up right meow. I'm gonna go with warriors. Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna need some warriors, but not that many. Archers to do. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da. Cool. Easy peasy. Yes, exclamation PD. There you go. Good job. What are you staring at, girl? Get back in the kitchen where you belong. Maybe I should take you back to my kitchen and explain your place as a servant, he said with a nasty glare and a glint in his eyes. Rapidly, I turned to head back into the kitchen. On my way in, I ran into Robert. It was with enough force to knock us both off our feet. I tumbled on top of him, and we hit the kitchen floor with a crash. I'm so sorry, I muttered, feeling extremely embarrassed as I got to my feet. He glared at me as he stood, his right hand rubbing his lower back. I didn't mean for that to happen. I'm very sorry. Are you okay? I mumbled as I smoothed my skirt. Robert didn't reply. I walked past him to continue cleaning up the bowls from dinner, too embarrassed to look at him. I knew my cheeks were flaming red, and I turned to the sink and started scrubbing the dishes. I set the dishes in the rack beside me, intending to dry them when I was done washing them. To my surprise, Robert stepped up beside me, grabbed a rag, and began drying the dishes. You don't have to help me, I said as I watched him from the corner of my eye. He just shrugged his shoulders. As I was beginning to wonder if Robert was mute, and that was the reason Mr. Wicker wanted to pass him off, I continued to subtly watch him as he stacked the dishes next to the sink. Once everything was clean and dry, Robert stepped back into the corner of the kitchen, and I could feel his eyes on me. I stopped putting the cutlery away when I heard more commotion coming from the dining room. Marie's voice penetrated through the wooden door. Breaks over, back to the lurk. No worries. You know, I have a lurk sound. Why isn't it working? It's very strange. Things just are not working as I thought they would. That's weird. It disappeared. That would be why. Alright, I'll have to deal with that later. I'm so sorry for my daughter's rudeness. I tried to get her to come out of her room, but she's locked the door. Please take my apology for her. That was one of the most offensive things I've ever heard in my life, I heard Mr. Wicker say, and by the sound of his voice, I could tell he was still eating. I cannot accept that apology from you. I risked peeking through the door and heard the scrape of the chair as Mr. Wicker stood. He grabbed a pink cloth napkin from the table and wiped his mouth. But not all the food had come off. Mashed potatoes still clung to his mustache. He whipped around and grabbed the ruby-encrusted cane that was leaning up against the wall. I'll take my boy and we'll be on our way. No, we had a deal about the boy, Marie shouted. That was before the better piece of the deal fell through, Mr. Wicker said. What part of the deal are you referring to? I only agreed to give you 1/8 of what my wheat production, Marie replied. I've changed my mind since that little outburst, Mr. Wicker said. My daughter had nothing to do with this deal. Now, get out of my house, Marie yelled. I watched a very harassed Mr. Wicker lean on his cane as he limped toward the door. Slowly, I slipped out of the kitchen and watched Marie barge after Mr. Wicker toward the front door. Instead of remaining in the dining room, I followed suit and watched as she slammed the door behind him. Marie and I watched from the window as Mr. Wicker got into his carriage, shot a dirty look toward the house, and told the coachman to crack the whip. The black horses cantered away, and the carriage rocked dangerously down the drive. Marie turned on me so sharply that I wasn't expecting it. "What are you standing here for?" Her sharp voice rang through the empty hall. "I wanted to know what else she wanted me to do," I replied in a whisper. "Go finish with the dishes. I don't know why I should have to tell you that," Marie said. "But, ma'am, the dishes are already done," I pointed out. "Then you can take Robert out to the stables and show him the quarters he will be occupying." I left the front hall and headed back into the kitchen, where I found Robert in the position I left him. He turned to face me when he heard me enter. "If you follow me, I'll show you to the stables where you'll be sleeping," I said. He gave me a nod to show that he understood, but his lips remained closed. We went out the back door in the kitchen and crossed the lawn to the big red barn that was only a shadow in the dark night. I went along slowly, not wanting to trip on an upturned stone or twig. Also, the ground was steeply sloped, and I didn't want to embarrass myself any further by falling. When I reached the barn, I fiddled with the rusty latch until it opened. I could hear Robert breathing behind me. I pushed the doors open and felt for the lantern that was hanging against the wall. My hand grazed a sharp nail, but I continued to grope forward. Finally, my hand contacted the lantern, and I pulled it down from the wall. Bending down into the dampened hay, I lit the lantern, and a blazing light filled the stable. I could hear the snorting of the horses as they restlessly moved in their stalls. Now in the light, I looked down at my hand. There was a small cut that didn't seem very deep, but blood beaded across my hand. I tried to hide it as I turned toward Robert. "Follow me. You'll be sleeping in the loft above the horses," I said as I headed for the far side of the barn where a ladder went into the ceiling above. "I'll climb up and you can hand me the lantern." Giving him the lantern, I began climbing up, careful not to get pressure on my injured hand. Once in the loft, Robert handed the light up, and I hung it from a nail that was sticking out of the rafters. In the illuminated space, I saw bare, brown wooden walls, and the floor was littered with hay. I went to work trying to find the least damp hay while Robert climbed up the ladder. "I found the driest hay for you to sleep on for tonight," I said. He crossed the room and settled on the fresh hay while I slowly sat down across from him. Glancing around, I searched for something to cover my hand. Suddenly, I sensed him watching me, and I tried to hide my wound, but it was too late. Robert assessed the injury and then ripped off some fabric from his shirt. Tentatively, he wrapped it around my hand. "Thank you," I said, wondering even more so if he was mute. I decided the best thing to do was ask. "Do you know how to speak?" I asked. "Yes," came his hoarse reply. "I choose not to. Mr. Wicker didn't like it when I talked," Robert said quickly, and then he fell silent again. He looked guilty. Instantly, I felt the need to ask him questions. Perhaps with Mr. Wicker gone, he would talk to me. I hoped so, because I hardly had anyone to converse with. especially someone around my age. What was your life like with Mr. Wicker? Why would he want to excuse you from your services? Do you have any family? Have you always lived with him? I know I didn't give him time between questions to answer, and my questions were a bit nosy, but I was so eager for conversation. Robert gave me an odd look. I couldn't tell if he was mad or not. Maybe I don't want to share that kind of information with you, he said suddenly. I was taken aback by his response. Didn't he also need to talk to someone after Mr. Wicker had kept him silent? Robert gave me a cold look and turned away from me. Judging from his reaction toward me, I knew he had tired of my company. I decided it was time for me to leave. Slowly, I got up from the hay and moved to the ladder. I gave him an angry look as I turned around to lower myself down from the loft. A small part of me expected him to call down and ask me to come back, but no call came. I stalked out of the barn. Through the dark night, I felt my way up to the house, careful not to trip on the uneven land. A small light was shining in the kitchen, and I moved toward the soft glow. The kitchen was empty, and slowly I turned the brass doorknob, hearing a click as the heavy door opened. Marie and her children seemed to have retired to bed, and I knew there would be hell to pay if I woke them. Like a thief, I stole into the house and made my way to the stairs. Practically holding my breath, I took each step at a time, grateful that I was able to remain silent. I saw a few steps from the words. I know how to read them, I promise. I was a few steps from the top when I started to breathe easier. Then it happened on the last step. The step creaked under my weight and echoed in the silent old house. I froze and strained my ears to see if anyone had heard. My heart began to drum in my chest. I noticed candlelight moving under the door to my left. Marie's door. Slowly, the knob on the door turned, and I closed my eyes, wishing I could disappear. When I opened them, I saw Marie standing in the doorway holding a slim candle in her hands. If it weren't for the candle, I would have thought her eyes were creating the fire. "What are you doing?" Marie asked in a harsh whisper. "I was just heading up to my room," I replied. "I don't need you sneaking around my house like a common criminal," Marie said. "I was showing Robert out to the barn like you asked," I stammered. "Well, get up to bed. I hope never to find you out this late," Marie said as she slammed her door in my face. Shuddering, I continued toward the attic. Today had been so confusing. I had thought Emily would be forced into marrying Mr. Wicker, and I would finally get someone to talk to if Robert came to stay. When would I learn I should never be hopeful? If only my father could be here. He would have been able to make things better, I thought as I closed my eyes. Though I felt tired, I wasn't foolish enough to believe that my mind would descend into the darkness of sleep. Hey, Savage. And that, folks, is how Chapter 2 ends. Interesting. A new suitor comes to town, Mr. Wicker, but Emily, who seems to be the spawn of her evil mother, won't have anything of it, and basically ruined the whole day, kicked him out. But Robert, who is now a stable boy, seems to be sticking behind, so will something come of that? Time will tell. Time will tell indeed. All right. boy. I like this. You've got a well-written book here, Dark Angel. Or, I guess we can just say Jenna, right? I mean, it's right there on the cover of your book. I like it. Hopefully everyone that's listening is still enjoying the story so far. Thank you so much, I'm glad. Yeah, absolutely. Do you prefer Dark Angel or do you prefer Jenna? What's your cup of tea? Do you want lemon or honey? Very much liking it too. Awesome, Queen. I'm glad you are. You can call me Jenna? Alright, cool. Appreciate that. Not that Dark Angel is difficult to say, just Jenna's faster. Oh, that felt good. Alright, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close the book for a second. I need to do a quick stretch break, so I will be right back. All right. Thank you for that. Oh, got a good few pops out of my back. Good stretch. Hope you folks did the same. Don't forget to hydrate. Don't forget to have your snacks handy. We're going to do another chapter here, chapter 3, and then we'll find somebody to raid. Because by then, I expect my kiddo will be home, and, gotta do the whole parental thing. Being a dad and all that. It's frowned upon if you don't. So, some people call it neglect. Labels. Whatever. I try not to get into that. Ooh, interesting. Alright. I didn't look at the chapter title before I left, but chapter 3 is called An Unexpected Surprise. What surprise could it be? Let's find out together. Oh, before we do, of course, the link to the book and a reminder of the giveaway, just in case you want to be part of it. Alright, Chapter 3, An Unexpected Surprise. The summer days moved by swiftly, and I kept to my routine in the house. I had little to no contact with Robert. I spent my free time in the woods around the house, and on rainy days, I would retreat to the attic. My life progressed the same as it always had, except for the fact that more men came to have dinner with Marie and her family in hopes of courting Emily. Emily, however, was not to be won that easily, and she managed to find something distasteful about every man that walked through the door. Marie seemed to be on pins and needles every day, and she yelled at me frequently. Her irritability was the reason I enjoyed disappearing into the woods. Each day I found myself going deeper and staying later than I should. I didn't know how long the manor's property extended, but I didn't care. The woods became my sanctuary, a place where no one could bother me. I often thought about my mother during my woodsy walks. There was so much I would never know about her. I wished that someone would be able to tell me what she had been like. Though some of the servants had worked at the manor when my mother was the lady of the house, none of them talked about her. I believe they were afraid that Marie would find out and punish them. When Marie married my father, she insisted on hiring some of her previous servants. However, my father could not afford to hire more staff members, and he dismissed some of his employees. Ever since then, the remaining long-term staff feared that they would lose their jobs if they displeased Marie. As soon as my chores were completed for the day, I made my way down to the forest. My breath slowed as I stepped into the cool, shadowed green. The trees were so beautiful, and the sun shone through the leaves, creating shafts of light on the forest floor. I stepped over the mossy, fallen logs, making sure I didn't step on the sharp stones. My mind wandered as I continued to walk further into the forest, where the trees became thicker and sunlight broke through less often. I walked for what I suspected was a half hour before I stopped. This was the farthest I had ever been. I lowered myself onto a log and gazed around, admiring the beauty of nature. A cool breeze ruffled the leaves above, and it felt good against my skin. I closed my eyes and leaned back on the log, noticing that the forest was uncommonly quiet. My eyes snapped open, and I looked around wildly. Usually, the forest was full of life, and the constant chirping of birds could be heard. But today, the woods were still. Was it because I was so deep in? In the bush directly behind me, I heard a rustling and immediately jumped up from the log. Had someone followed me? What kind of animals live this deep in the woods? Slowly, I backed away from the noise. Since I hadn't paid attention to where I was, from where I was stepping, I tripped over a broken branch and fell onto my back. As I struggled to get up, a man stepped out from behind the bush. He wore a bright purple vest and black pants. The man had a short gray beard and oval glasses, and sat on the brim of his nose. He appeared to be shorter than average, but I couldn't tell from the ground. I began to scream for help, but I didn't know if anyone would hear me this far into the woods. "Hush, Miss Fitzgerald. Your stepmother can't hear you from here, which is probably for the best," the man said. "How do you know my name?" I asked in a terrified voice. "Calm down, Miss Fitzgerald. I've been watching you for a while now, and I'm positive you are whom I'm looking for," he replied. How could I calm down when he had just admitted that he had been following me for some time now? "Why would you be looking for me?" I asked while I tried to keep my voice from shaking. If worse came to worse, I could use my powers to escape from this man and hope that Marie would never find out. "I'm quite sure that you have the same ability as your mother," the man replied. "What do you mean, my ability?" I asked. I think you know what I mean." He smiled at me, and I was sure he meant it to be encouraging. "So, you knew my mother?" I asked, not wanting to reveal my powers to this stranger. Of course I knew her. She was one of my best students at my school, and you look just like her, the old man said. What are you talking about? My father had never told me anything about this man. Your mother attended the Jelf Academy of Magic for 5 years, the man said. She had the same capabilities you do. Are you saying that my mother was... and I'm a witch? I blurted. At this point, the strangely dressed man laughed at me. Heavens, no! Witches and warlocks do not exist. They are just fictional characters that humans made up out of fear of anything magical. You, my dear, are a pixie. Your mother was one of the best pixies I have ever had the pleasure to teach. Aren't pixies supposed to be the small, and impish? I don't think I fit that description, I said. That is another misconception that humans make about the magical world. Pixies control things with their minds. We can create charms using the rocks and minerals around us. If you agree to attend the Jelf Academy, you can learn to control your powers and be able to do so much more with them, the man said. I'm not sure Marie will approve, I replied. I was sure she would immediately say no to any place that would help enhance my powers. She must approve. I personally think you were meant to go to the Jelf Academy of Magic and be trained like your mother, the man burst out. All pixies must complete their education. How else are you going to learn to create charms and control your powers? I'm sorry, but I don't even know who you are, I said as I pulled myself up from the ground. I had just realized that I had been talking to this man the entire time from the forest floor. I was so baffled by his presence that I couldn't even think clearly. Could there really be an entire school of people like me? Oh, how silly of me, the man chuckled. My name is Dr. Tweedle, and I'm the headmaster of the Jelf Academy. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of cream-colored paper. This is your letter of introduction to the school. I apologize, since it seems I forgot to tell you more than my name. I opened the paper and stared at the neat, scrawled print. Dear Miss Jane Fitzgerald, I am pleased to inform you that you may possess the magical ability that is required to attend the Jelf Academy of Magic, and you have recently reached the appropriate age to begin your magical education. Enclosed is a list of required items for your education. I would be delighted if you were to accept the proposal to come and study at the Jelf Academy of Magic. School begins at the end of August, and students are allowed to return home on weekends. I anticipate your acceptance. Sincerely, Dr. Oliver Tweedle, Headmaster. My eyes scanned down the letter to the list of items I would need if I were to attend. School supplies, school uniform, set of 12 astrological gemstones, set of star charts, 1 pixie dust case, set of stone mixing dishes. And then there were books. The Power of the Gemstones by Ruby Pebble. Divination for Beginners by Moon Shadowveil, Master Seer. Pixies of the Modern Age by Walter Brown. Understanding the Zodiac by Leonardo Flitz. Predicting the Weather and Other Catastrophes by Merle Greenhouse. The Movement of Stars and What They Mean by Orion Nebula. Mixing Stone Powders, Volume 1 by Randolph Talk. Dr. Tweedle was watching me intently over his oval spectacles. Well, Even if I were allowed to attend Jelf Academy, where would I get the money to buy all these things? I asked as I looked up from the very long list. Not to worry, Dr. Tweedle said as he pushed up his glasses so that they sat higher up on his nose. We have a wonderful program for students who do not have the money to pay for their supplies. You don't have to worry about paying any sort of tuition to attend the school. The Jelf Academy is considered a public school, in which all the pixies of the eastern United States can attend. My eyes went back to the letter. You have the option of bringing a small pet, which you may keep in your dormitory. Also, you may bring a formal dress or suit if you qualify for the school dance. This can't be real. The words came out of my mouth when I had only meant to think them. Oh, this is very real. Now the only thing I have left to do is convince your stepmother. I've already managed to convince the Pixie government for now. Dr. Tweedle sighed. What do you mean by the Pixie government? I asked, confused. Also, what did he mean when he said for now? Within our hidden community, there is a Pixie government that deals with Pixie affairs. The Pixie government of the United States is skeptical about allowing you to attend because your father was human. They have this irrational fear that you would expose the Pixie world to humans. And they also don't believe that you will be talented enough since you are not a pure-blood Pixie. I've convinced them to offer you admission, as long as I keep them updated on your progress. Why would you want to convince them? You don't even know me, I stammered. I knew your mother, and I'm sure that you have her ability, Dr. Tweedle responded. Marie will never let me go. She would never let me attend a school that focused on magic, especially since she is repulsed by me. Marie has threatened to throw me out of the house because of my magic. She even denies that I'm her stepdaughter, I cried. Then we shall not let her know that your attendance is for magical purposes. With that, Dr. Tweedle snapped his fingers and blue dust surrounded his body in a glittery cloud. When the dust settled, Dr. Tweedle emerged dressed in a black suit, and his glasses looked cleaner. I gaped with shock because I had never seen another person perform magic. Wow, will I learn to do magic like that? I asked in amazement. Yes. You will learn the powers of charm-making and how to focus your mind. Pixie magic requires a great deal of mental stability. That will help you control your powers. Let me explain my impromptu plan. You will head back to the house, and I will come by later. Do not give any indication that we have met. Let me have that letter back so I can properly present it to your stepmother. Without a doubt, she will accept your invitation for you to attend. Dr. Tweedle plucked the letter from my hands, and instantly the letter resealed itself as if it were never opened. As Dr. Tweedle confidently turned on his heel and made his way farther into the woods, I headed in the opposite direction toward the house. My stomach clenched and my head spun. Dr. Tweedle did not know Marie, so how could he be so sure she would agree? When I got closer to the house, I heard Marie calling my name. Had Dr. Tweedle arrived already? Jane, where have you been? Marie demanded. Just in the woods, Mom, I replied. Get in the kitchen and put on some tea. Emily has had a dreadful headache and has requested some tea with lemon, Marie said. Hastily, I went into the kitchen and put on the kettle of water. While the water boiled, I sat, nervously waiting for Dr. Tweedle to appear. I began fidgeting, and my nerves jolted when the tea kettle whistled. Trying to stay calm, I grabbed some tea leaves and added them to the porcelain pink cup. Even though my hands shook, I managed to pour out the hot water. Then I took 2 slices of lemon and squeezed them into the tea along with a lump of sugar. Was Dr. Tweedle telling me the truth about a magic school, or was this an elaborate hoax? Could I even allow myself to hope? Hope has never worked in the past. Shivy! Hey Shivy, how are you? What's going on? Glad to see you. Let me give you a wonderful shout out. I'm assuming you were doing golf with friends. I could have swore you were doing something zoo related earlier, but maybe I'm wrong, or maybe you did and I just didn't see it. Also, now that we have that moment, please go check out one of my mods, Bubble07, playing Dead by Daylight. He's a great guy. He's from Australia. And, yeah, he's awesome. Oh, you had community night, that's why. Okay. And I know she's back at work, but my other mod, Aranel, is also a reader. So, please feel free to check her out as well if you like. If you want more people that read, there's also in my About section below a whole list of other readers that you can peruse. I was on my way up to Emily's room when I heard a knock on the door. Spinning around on the staircase, I watched Marie head across the foyer and fling the door open. I felt a flutter of excitement at the sight of Dr. Tweedle on the front steps. I prayed this all wasn't a joke for Marie's amusement. Before Marie could notice me on the staircase, I headed up to Emily's room to deliver the tea. Marie couldn't yell at me for not doing what she had asked. Emily was lying in her bed with the covers up to her neck and her eyes closed when I entered the room. Her red curtains were drawn tightly to keep the light out. She must have sensed someone was in the room with her because she started to moan dramatically. My head. My head. As I moved closer to the bed, Emily's eyes opened. There you are. I've been waiting ages for that tea. My poor headache won't go away with cold tea. Don't worry, the tea is hot. I sighed as I walked to her bedside. Well, since you're here, there's an awful dirty spot on my fireplace mantel, and it's hurting my eyes. Emily sighed. I set her tea down on her bedside table. What spot? I asked. I don't see one. Believe me, it's there. It's been glaring at me all day, Emily replied. Slowly, I moved to the mantel and grabbed a cloth that was hanging on the rack near the fireplace. To the left. No, more to the right. Emily was shouting at me as I wiped all over the mantel. I could hear the suppressed laugh in her voice, and I knew that Emily wasn't sick at all. She was probably acting to get a break from the line of suitors Marie had waiting. Jane? Jane? I heard Marie calling from downstairs. I smiled to myself as I dropped the rag at the foot of the fireplace. Where do you think you're going? Emily asked. Your mother calls, I replied as I exited her bedroom and made my way downstairs. Marie was in my father's old office, and I almost cringed when I saw her seated at the old oak desk. Dr. Tweedle sat in the chair in front of the desk with his back to me, facing Marie. The curtains were thrown open, and I blinked to get used to the light because Emily's room had been a sea of shadows. Yes, ma'am? I asked attentively, and I tried not to look at Dr. Tweedle. This man, Dr. Tweedle, Dr. Tweedle cut in. Dr. Tweedle, Marie smiled sweetly, but I knew she was furious about being corrected, has informed me that you have the qualifications to attend his school. But what the qualifications are, I do not know, she sneered. Dr. Tweedle twitched in his chair, and I could tell he was embarrassed for me. Well, Jane, what do you think I should let you go? I still haven't found out what they teach there. She inclined her head toward Dr. Tweedle. I remained silent, not knowing what to say. Do I beg and plead? Was I supposed to come up with a lie for what the school taught? And suddenly, Mr. Tweedle gasped. My, look at that extraordinary bird out the window there. Marie and I both looked out the window, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw Dr. Tweedle pull a bag out of his jacket. Marie's back was still to Dr. Tweedle. What bird? What are you talking about? She asked in an aggravated voice. Oh, it's just out the window there, Dr. Tweedle replied. Marie continued to look, but I was not interested in the bird anymore. I was more interested in what Dr. Tweedle was doing. He took a pinch of green powder from the pouch and sprinkled it into Marie's cup of tea. Green smoke rose from the glass and then magically vanished when Marie turned around. She gently picked up her cup and took a sip. If Marie could taste anything different, she didn't show it. Maybe you should take a look at Miss Fitzgerald's acceptance letter, Dr. Tweedle suggested as he pulled out the cream-colored letter. I held my breath as he handed it over to her. The Jelf Academy, Marie mumbled. So your school teaches etiquette. I breathed a sigh of relief. Whatever Dr. Tweedle had slipped into Marie's tea must have changed what she saw on the acceptance letter. Her mother attended, and I believe her father would have wanted her to attend as well. She has a small amount of money saved in an account, which she will be able to use towards supplies. We can help her financially with the rest, Dr. Tweedle said. It wouldn't hurt for the girl to learn some manners, but I definitely won't pay any money towards it. How long will she attend this school? Marie asked. She will attend the school for 5 years, and she is allowed home for the holidays and weekends, Dr. Tweedle replied. Well, that is not going to do. I need Jane to help with cleaning the house every day, Marie said. Please, ma'am. Wait, wrong person. Please, ma'am, I said. I will work extra hard on the weekends to make up for the week. Marie sat staring at my acceptance letter, and Dr. Tweedle sat presently. It seemed like an eternity before Marie said anything. If I let you go, Jane, you must promise me that you will work harder than ever. You will not have any time off except for supper. Her cold gray eyes looked me over. Yes, ma'am, I understand, I said as I looked down at the desk. You may only go on those conditions. It certainly wouldn't be a waste for you to acquire proper etiquette. Maybe then you won't be a complete embarrassment in the future, Marie said. But if I find your housework lacking, I will never let you return. If your education doesn't benefit me, I won't tolerate it. Good. That seems settled, said Dr. Tweedle as he got to his feet. I'll be back on August 26th to take Miss Fitzgerald to get her school supplies, and then I'll make sure she gets to the school. Surely you don't take all the students to get their school supplies, Marie said, with that suspicious look on her face. Miss Fitzgerald's case is different, seeing that she is an orphan who does need our financial help. I didn't think you would mind so much if I took her out of your hands. If you would rather take her yourself, then by all means, Dr. Tweedle stated. No, that's fine. I suppose I'll have to see you again on the 26th of August, Marie said snootily as she stood and gestured Dr. Tweedle toward the door. My heart felt lighter as I made my way up to the attic. Soon I would escape this prison, even if it were just for a little while. On the 26th of August, Dr. Tweedle kept his word and arrived in a horse-drawn carriage. He was dressed in a finely pressed suit, and his beard looked neater. I stood silently at the top of the stairs as I watched Marie open the big wooden door and saw him standing in the doorway. The light bounced off his oval glasses, and he looked up at me and smiled. Are you ready to go, Miss Fitzgerald? Dr. Tweedle asked, completely ignoring Marie, which I knew she couldn't stand. Hey, Ikokoro, thanks for that lurk. Hope you're doing well. Oh, Jane, I didn't know you were there, she said as she spun around to face me. Come along, Miss Fitzgerald, and remember to bring your acceptance letter, Dr. Tweedle said with a wink. It's in my room. I'll just be a minute, I said and dashed up to the attic. I grabbed the letter and looked around the musty old room. It would be a week before I have to sleep here again. I turned my back on the dismal place and hurried down the stairs to Dr. Tweedle in the hall, not feeling any sadness about leaving. Are you ready? Dr. Tweedle asked. The tension in the hallway felt like it could be sliced with a knife. I had never seen Marie so uncomfortable in her own home. Don't you have a suitcase or something special that you would like to take with you? I shook my head as I watched Marie out of the corner of my eye. You don't have anything at all, my dear? He asked. No, I don't, but I'm ready to go now, I replied as I watched Marie's dangerous stare. All right then, Miss Fitzgerald, let's be off, Dr. Tweedle said. He started to head to the door. I was on my way out after him when Marie grabbed my arm and pulled me very close to her face. Remember what you promised me. Her gray, stony eyes scanned my face and made me shudder. It was only for a moment, and then she shoved me toward the door. Shaken up, I followed Dr. Tweedle to his carriage, and he helped me in. I looked back at the house as the carriage pulled away, and I saw Marie Marie? That's not a word. I saw Marie disappear behind the curtain. I began to breathe easier as the carriage rounded the bend down the driveway by the barn. I was so afraid Marie would change her mind at the last moment. My rear is a word? Yes, but my rear, like all one word, I don't think is. Words in fact, Savage says. A flash of movement caught my attention. Watching me from the shadow of the barn was Robert. We made eye contact for a split second before I lost sight of him as the carriage pulled me into my new life. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes Chapter 3. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. That's alright. I gave you a very hard time earlier today. Not that you didn't deserve it. Just saying. Just saying. Just kidding. Alright. Oh my, she says. Oh my. Oh my indeed. What do we got here? Got a little bit of everything. Got a little bit of everything. We're just gonna go ahead and do this whole kill and field thing, and, well, good luck. Oh, I have a command for that, M. You can just do exclamation point. I don't know what happened to my lurk command. That was very strange. I'm gonna have to add it back in. Lurk. Pick. Let's see. Sounds for chatbot. Yeah, there it is. Submit. There we go. Winner, winner. And a chicken dinner. Good job, everybody. Who gets the gold? M is me gets the gold. Way to go. Back to the map. Collect that so I can spend that later. Collect that so I can hopefully open it. There we go. Thank you, thank you. You are absolutely welcome. It's picked at random. So, ladies and gentlemen, how'd you like the book so far? Give me some feedback. While you're doing that, I'm going to go find someone for us to go say hello to. We can raid out and see who's on right now. Oh, I know exactly who we're going to go raid to. She's a fantastic human being. Her name is Rio. We all know her. Most of us know her. Rio Enda, specifically. She's a joy to be around. And it was her birthday recently, so when you get in there, please wish her a happy belated birthday. Because she's great. She's a wonderful human being. She's been through a lot too, so anything that we can do to, you know, lift her spirits, it's always appreciated. So one more time, there's the link for Pixie Dust. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really am, very much so. I can't wait to get into it again on Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time on the 23rd. And as far as Sunday goes, the following Sunday, I won't be back in time from being at my in-laws for Christmas, so Sunday's stream will have to wait until Thursday. So we'll read this Thursday, and then it'll be a whole week before we read again. So it's a bummer, but we'll make it. I'm so excited that you started my book, and I hope you all enjoyed it so far. I'm glad you threw it out there for me to pick. I really am. It's a great book. The Oldest Noob. What's up, sir? Unfortunate timing, though. We are leaving. But thank you for popping in. I imagine you probably just got up, or not been up that long, you know, with your night shift and all that. Alright, folks. Yep, that's what I figured. We're gonna raid out. Just make sure I spelled that properly. I know who it is, and I know her channel by heart, but I always fear that I'm gonna flub it. Thank you for the hosts early on. I really appreciate those. And Savage and Gemma, thank you so much for those bits. Your names have been added to the gift for the giveaway. I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead. I really do. And I can't wait to see you again on Thursday. I probably won't do the giveaway on Thursday since we're going to be missing a stream, and I'm not even going to have the books here until early January anyway. But so that'll give everyone more time if they want to get more entries into it. As I always say, we can't change the world on our own, but we can change the world for someone. Take care, have a fantastic day, and I see you all next time.
Hi, Zan. Atkinson! Hello, Atkinson. and hello, Raiders. Give me 1 second to send. Oops, I'll up that over there.